Well, welcome. My name is Sevilla. I love. We're talking tonight about sudden loss. Many of you have had a sudden loss. Some of you by an accident or a crime or death by suicide. A loss you were not expecting. You were going about your day, everything was fine, or maybe you thought there was a little problem, but you never imagined what the end result would be when they sped off in a car angrily, or when they made a threat that you thought was benign and just drama. A lot of these experiences can completely pull the rug out from underneath your life, to put it lightly. I worked in suicide prevention specifically for a couple of years throughout my career, working specifically with families that have either lost someone to suicide or someone who had an attempt, and working with those clients that had had an attempt. I'd also lost people in my own life to suicide. My husband died suddenly by an accident. I work with clients who have lost someone to a car accident and to a crime, and I've had people in my life lost to crime as well. And you're not expecting this type of loss from your life. It can be devastating in a way that is very difficult for anybody else to understand, because I'm not saying it's worse or better, but it's different than a long-term loss where you're nursing someone over a long period of time, and then you have an opportunity to plan for the end of their life, make arrangements, and then say goodbye. Now, ultimately, when they leave, the loss, of course, is always sudden, because you never know when to expect it. And it hits you like a ton of bricks. So please do not hear me minimizing that loss in any way. I'm only recognizing the difference. The same as losing a spouse is different than losing a child, is different than losing a friend, is different than losing a grandparent, is different than losing a pet, is different than losing that human being that was closest to you, regardless of your relationship to them. All loss is unique and different. So when you've had a sudden loss, there is this period of numbness that comes with it. The sense of disbelief. How could this be happening? And if you've been witness to that loss, say there was an accident or someone died by suicide, and you were witness to the presence or the aftermath of that, either with an accident or with the death by suicide. These are very uncomfortable topics for people to talk about, but this is what I do. I specialize in grief and loss. Now, if you have had a loss like this, I just want to say, if you feel at all like you are suffering so badly yourself that you have had thoughts of death and dying yourself to the point where you're considering any kind of plan, please call the Suicide Prevention Hotline at 1-800-273-8255, 1-800-273-8255, and there's people there 24/7 to talk to you. But most of you have just had this loss and have maybe had, thoughts of death or dying because you're in so much pain, but you don't have a plan. Okay, that's different. It's normal to have, oh my gosh, I just don't think I can handle this pain. If I didn't wake up tomorrow, I'd be okay with that. Okay, that's not being suicidal. That's having thoughts of death and dying. Suicidal is having a plan and feeling a sense of worthlessness about your life and a lack of ability to go on, all those things combined. Okay, so there's a difference. Now, never hesitate to reach out to somebody for support. Ever. A friend, a relative, and always that suicide prevention hotline, even if you're just having thoughts. It's okay. There's people on the other end of the line to help support you. But with this sudden loss, now you may be quite a while out from that sudden loss, and you're still wondering, what is the purpose in it? And finding out the purpose may be a lifelong journey for you. Because what it means for you as an individual, as a developing soul, as the spiritual being having this human experience, is unique to you and your relationship you had with that person that's now physically gone from this life. Now, as their soul continues on in the next realm, you wonder what's going on with them. Are they okay? Are they loved? Are they in a bad place? Are they in a good place? I don't know what happened. We didn't have a chance to pray over them before they died because they were gone so quickly. Whatever it is that you're thinking about them, as a developing medium, as somebody with a lifetime of metaphysical studies, metaphysical meaning beyond the physical. Okay, I'm the child of a metaphysical minister. I am the daughter of a astrologer and a spiritual teacher, and they led a community of people, that would come together to share knowledge and information and investigation into this metaphysical realm of existence. Who are we beyond this body? And ultimately, when you have this sudden loss, boom, that hits so quickly, you don't have a chance to turn around. You don't have a chance to plan. You don't have a chance to say goodbye. Or say, I love you, one more time. Or a chance to make amends if there was a rift in the relationship. And so you're left with this grief that doesn't seem to have a way to tie it up. And this particular type of suffering that you may be experiencing brings you into another realm of investigation because it's too painful to stay there. It is too difficult to sit in that space and stew in it without seeking answers. And that desire to seek answers, excuse me, is what pushes you in to your own spiritual investigation of truth. Your own spiritual investigation of truth. And I have a comment here where Lisa says, my husband passed away suddenly 4 years ago. He suffered a massive heart attack while he was driving to work. He was only 47. Yes, here one day, gone the next. My son and I miss him dearly. And this would be my story. Lisa, I share this sudden loss with you. My husband also died suddenly at 47. He went out to sea to go fishing. He was a commercial fisherman. And he never came home. I talked to him at 10 o'clock at night one night on the satellite phone, and then the next morning I saw the Coast Guard helicopters flying overhead looking for someone. Found out they were looking for my husband. And I also have a son. So I hear you. And some people have lost their loved ones to suicide. And some people have lost their loved ones to an illness that came on so quickly that they didn't have a chance to prepare. My best friend that passed away this summer, he had 3 days. That's a sudden loss too. But they're all different. And so this type of loss throws you into this, it's almost like you get the fight or flight reaction. You're automatically thrown into the fight because you have no opportunity to prepare. So then you're delving into, okay, what do I need to do next? What needs to happen? What's the legalese? What's the police report? What's the Coast Guard report? How do I deal with the news media if there's been some kind of crime around the loss? And so you're overwhelmed with all of this stuff. All of this earthly story stuff. And for a while, it allows us to have a distraction from the loss itself. And it allows us to dig into all the details of the things that we have to manage. And then once we're done managing it, and then all is quiet and the people have stopped coming around, And we're left with the feeling, oh my gosh, they're really gone. They're really, 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 really gone. And now what? Who am I without this person? Who am I that thinks that? Who am I that thinks that? So what I want to share with you is that we have this egoic self. And the egoic self is the self that has a story. And I'm an accountant, I'm a social worker, I'm a president of the United States, whatever. They're all stories. And one of the stories that I like the best is a woman that had a near-death experience, and she was actually physically dead for 20 minutes, which is brain dead territory. If you're dead that long, you don't come back from it and have your brain functioning. And she did. And in her life after death, life review, she said that one of the most profound things that stood out for her was that it didn't matter who you were in this life. It didn't matter what your story was. She said you could be the president of the United States or you could be a street sweeper. It didn't matter. The only thing mattered was, how did you love? How did you love in your lifetime? What did you do with what you had in this lifetime? So the sudden loss that we have from someone gives the stark contrast, because we don't have time to process their death and their life. And so you're left with whatever was immediate before they died. And if you had a bad moment before they died, you're left with that. And you have to try to create some space between it and put the whole story together. Or if it was this blissful, love story before they died, or you had the perfect child, or you had the perfect husband, or whatever you had, and then nothing. Now that perfectness is gone, now who are you? And so this story that we have isn't as important as the love that we shared. And so if you had like a lot of negativity with a person, so you had a struggle in your marriage, or your child had a lot of problems, maybe they had a drug addiction or something like that. There's a lot of pain and suffering between you and that other person. Then you have this opportunity now to step into a state of forgiveness and acceptance. And forgiveness doesn't mean that everything was okay the way it was. Forgiveness really is understanding that everything that led up into that moment was that person's story, was that person's path. And really you allow them to own it fully, because now they're on the other side standing in responsibility for it. Not standing in responsibility as if they're going to go to hell if they don't do something, because in all of my studies I've found no evidence of anyone in the afterlife experiencing anything like hell. And if they do have some illusion of negativity, they quickly move through that. Only because they need to move through the illusion so they can come to the understanding of what the truth is, which is on the other side, it's pure, it's light, it's all love. And there are no polarities in the next world. The polarities exist here. So it's your job now to work through those polarities that you experience, whatever good experience you had, whatever bad experience you had. This is your opportunity to find your growth in that. Now, as I look back on my relationship with my husband and all the things I've learned since he passed, suddenly, I realize all the things I could have done differently to have made things better. Now, I tried and did everything I could with 100% of my power and ability, given what I had at the time. And I believe that he's helped encourage me along after he's passed to find new ways and new understanding, to help me gain enlightenment in the areas that I didn't have enough of, or didn't have as much as I would have wished I would have had. I don't want to say enough, because there's no shoulda, woulda, coulda. Things were as they were. So there's no regrets. But there's if I would have had this tool, I could have done this differently. And so I definitely feel like he's urged my soul along to help me find those new tools in my new life without him. And so here's a question for you. Can you allow your loved one, regardless of whatever relationship you had with them, fantastic or mediocre or not so great, can you allow them to be in their pure state of being without polarity? And can you allow yourself to recognize the polarities you have, meaning the struggle you have within you, okay, the yes, the no, the maybe, the I don't know, the shoulda, the wouldas, the I'm trying to figure it out, okay? So can you allow yourself to be in that state? And then allow your loved one who knows you in that way better than anyone else to help nudge and advise you in the right direction so you can gain the insights, the greater amounts of love, the greater amounts of patience, the greater amounts of purpose from them now that they're gone. Allow them to continue to serve a purpose in your life, even though they're on the other side, even though they're over there. Allow them to continue to serve you in a new way, because this will help actually elevate their soul to be of service in love to you, and for you to open up your heart for their love and influence in the ways that you struggled with that particular thing with that person. Now, if your child, for example, passed away from an overdose and you struggle to understand why that had to happen, allow them to come in and help guide you in your understanding, in your wisdom, in your patience, in your purpose, and what that might mean for you in this lifetime. Or if your husband died suddenly from an accident, what that means for you in regards to knowing how strong you are, into knowing that you are capable of handling the worst thing life can throw at you, and that you can still walk through it on the other side, despite the pain, despite the black hole moments, that you are powerful, you are strong, and you are still here for a reason. Can you allow that to teach you this? And can you own it? So that their death isn't in vain, that some good comes out of that pile of shit, and that you become the flower of the love you have for them. Even when it was negative, nasty, sad, or you were just so grieved you were in a black hole for months and months. Can you become the flower? Can you allow yourself to become the light, to lead other people, friends and family, to create a foundation, to do a good deed for one individual person, finding purpose in your ability to survive this, even if you still hurt and grieve. I want to share with you two different passages from two different religious texts. Now, the Bible says the righteous person has many troubles, but the Lord delivers him from them all. That's Psalms 34:19. The Lord delivers them from them all. So, a lot of people try to understand what it means when we say the Lord or God. And for people who have crossed over and come back to tell about it, and I include myself in that experience, that the next world is nothing but love. Every infinite expression of love, from the orgasmic, if you'll excuse me, but from the orgasmic, which goes beyond anything physically can possibly comprehend, to the love for an animal, to this infinite, endless, brilliant, infinite creation, which is created of love. So if we equate God with love, and we think of that, the righteous person has many troubles, but the Lord, love, delivers them from them all. So what can you take from your experience, translate it into love, and then translated into purpose. Here's another one from the Baha'i Faith. And if this human life with its spiritual being were limited to this earthly span, then what would be the harvest of creation? So in other words, if I may, if we're just physical beings, then what's the point? But because we are spiritual beings, then we have this opportunity to bear these great and divine and beautiful fruits that carry on throughout an eternity. And your experience that you've had now gives you this opportunity to do that. Now, I'm not saying rejoice in their death or rejoice in how they died, because this is all very tragic stories. They're all painful, and they will always be painful. And there's another reality that can exist alongside of that, which is you finding your purpose in the pain and making some fruit from the tragic loss of that beloved person, turning your life around, growing your soul, creating new purpose. What is that for you? And allow that to speak to you. Allow your loved ones to speak to you, to inspire you. I know I've been inspired multiple times by my loved ones on the other side, by my late husband. I believe he's helped me in my current relationship with my fiance because he knows my stubborn streak. Our loved ones never leave us. Even if they've died in a tragic way, even if they've died by their own hands, they're enveloped in love and light, forgiveness, protection, and healing if they need that. And many souls that cross over, especially if they've crossed over by their own hand, need that protection and that love and that healing, and they get it. They're never left alone. And neither are you. And you're still connected. We're all one. But for those loved ones that were close to your heart, you're even closer. And you can connect with them. Just take a breath and allow. Listen. And even if you aren't sure, just allow yourself to trust, like you would if somebody went across town and you know they're at the grocery store. You know they're over there. You don't know exactly what they're doing, if they're looking at the apples or if they're checking out the pasta, but you know they're at the grocery store. So just allow yourself the comfort of knowing that, at least. And you'll feel yourself nudged in certain directions. You'll recognize and become aware of your challenges when they come up, especially if they're associated with that person in some way that you had challenges with them or inspiration from them, ways they particularly made you happy, and now you're having an opportunity to serve in that way. Pay attention to those things. Allow their lives to have meaning through you. Carry out the good works in their name, because this does affect their soul. It helps to elevate them and continues to give them purpose as well. I do private sessions. If you're interested in that, you can private message me. Have a lovely evening, a lovely day, and know that you're stronger than you might imagine. You're more beautiful than you know, and you're loved beyond all comparison.